So, first question, what is innovation to you, and how do you define innovation?
Sure. So, owing to a catastrophic lack of personal imagination, all I've done for 4 decades is to try to figure out how to get innovation to succeed instead of fail. Okay? So, innovation, by and large, is a topic that most people are deeply confused about. They think it's about creativity. It's not. They think it's about developing new products. It's not, or at least it shouldn't be. They think it comes from geniuses and gadflies and rocket scientists and mavericks and nerds in California and people fueled up on illicit substances, which are actively discouraged in the firm that I'm in, Deloitte. So what I can tell you is that those myths about innovation are extraordinarily prevalent. What innovation really is the ability to rethink the way in which you're going to create value in the world. It's these days, in a connected economy, increasingly about platforms, not products. And in an ideal case, it should give rise to ecosystems that orchestrate multiple businesses in a balletic fashion to create a radical shift in the total economics of a field.
You said that you want to make sure that innovation can succeed and not fail.
Right. The whole focus of Doblin is not just innovation, but specifically innovation effectiveness. So what we do is we sort of obsessively track a variety of things, specifically for any firm, any government, or any philanthropy that we work with. We try to establish, among other things, their hit rate, we call it, for innovation. Out of every 100 innovation initiatives they pursue, how many of them return the cost of capital? So we consider that a success. But most companies don't even measure it, again, because they think it's about creativity.
Right.
So they have people do brainstorming. They don't even keep track of how many ideas they then pursue. They have no idea which of them succeed or fail. Sometimes they fail initially, but then the team disbands and little fragments of the idea get resurrected 3 years down the road. And again, they never track the history. So there's a complete lack of discipline. The other thing that we tend to do is to take our Navy SEALs of innovation, the people that we have trained to do it, and sometimes work alongside our clients to help them to get must-succeed projects to actually succeed. But innovation effectiveness is an extremely important topic that not too many people know about.
And the word there is impact, right? Not only because you can be innovative for your own selfish reasons as a company, but then what is the impact of your innovation fully?
Yeah, impact is an overused word in my judgment. So let me, if you don't mind, try to be very precise with my terms. So there are 2 broad ambitions for innovation. And again, people need to be clear-headed about this. One ambition for innovation is to improve your known business. And this is something that very few people know. We worked very hard for many years to identify the ideal proportion of improving your known business. We call that simple innovation. Inventing new growth businesses is the second ambition, and we think of that as sophisticated innovation. Out of every 100 innovation initiatives for the average firm in most vertical categories, you want to do about 92 to 95 of those as simple innovations that improve the known business. They're the ones that allow you to stay in business. They sort of make you more efficient. But inventing a new business, which again you only need to do 5 to 8% of the time, is all about sort of creating the kind of lift so that you get your unfair share of attention, your unfair share of talent, your unfair share of enthusiastic investors, and you get partners all over the world most eager to come and work with you. So both matter. And here's the important point. We have never found any firm anywhere in the world that can use the same process for both of those ambitions.
Right.
So at a minimum, what companies need, though they don't know this, is 2 distinct methodologies for innovation. One suite of things, we call this tradecraft, to improve known businesses. These are very well-known things that are cliches everywhere: agile and quality and all of the things that people do to sort of bring discipline to business operations. The second ambition, inventing growth businesses, is a bit more elusive and somewhat more confounding to people. And in a time of great change, it's very much in demand, but in most organizations, most of the time, people are actually afraid of that rather than brave about it.
Why?
For a variety of reasons, mostly that they typically have a very poor track record of succeeding at it. And so as a result, even a fairly good, experienced, respected CEO will tend to have a toxic allergic reaction to the topic because they're told all the time by their engineers, their scientists, or others, yeah, we're really close to this, boss. We just, with just a couple more $1 million, and we're going to nail this baby, and then they get a bad outcome, and the CEO's the person, she's holding the bag because she funded it, and maybe she even promised the street that there would be some returns from it, and it's very embarrassing. Take a look at the indignities that the Boeing chairman is being, extruded through right now. So
as we speak.
So
would you say that what you
2
just
days in a
mentioned,
row,
that people resist embracing the change?
They're afraid of the future.
And effective innovation. Would you say that those are two very challenging things as a consultant?
Well,
for companies?
If you don't mind, I would say that they used to be challenging.
Okay.
In 4 decades of relentless research and the ability to develop signature tradecraft, we've gotten it to give up its secrets. So the global success rate, that is to say, again, measuring innovation in a disciplined way, the number of initiatives that return the company's cost of capital, when you don't know about the topic of innovation effectiveness and you think it's about creativity and you think it's about new products, which is pretty much the disease all through, say, for instance, financial services, then the normal hit rate across all industries and all geographies is 4.5%. About 4 or 5 out of every 100 initiatives return the cost of capital. That's roughly where medicine was when the really promising treatment was leeches. Okay, so
leeches.
Yeah, and they're coming back, but they still don't have much.
Fish too are coming back.
Yeah, no, I know exactly. Although I haven't been volunteering for those particular doctors.
I did it in Indonesia. No, it's kind of like a massage treatment.
Yeah, no, I've
but
seen.
From there, it catapulted to, hey, maybe we can cure people with this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like I say, it's not mainstream medicine. It's finding that to be the thing. Yeah, and so exactly. So in Asian medicine systems, cupping is the same phenomenon, right?
Cupping,
so
I'd rather take a needle. Inject me with something.
Well, anyway, coming back to the central point, the worst the Doblin unit has been able to achieve in the last 16 years is a 35% success rate. When we add additional layers of tradecraft, we can routinely get above 50% success rates. And in laboratory conditions, we're getting 72 to 80% success rates.
Yeah.
So that's what's exciting to me about my life's work, is that when you focus on innovation and the structural reasons why it fails, we've treated it like a forensic science. We know that when people try to innovate, they mean well.
Yeah.
And so we assume that every time they fail, that there's a structural reason. And we've just been relentless as scientists trying to figure out what are the patterns of failure.
And what are they?
Well, they're numerous and multivariate, so it's a complicated problem. But let's start with the fact that it mostly is believed to be about creativity. So the way I like to say it is, senior executives these days live in a world where they have some on a graph from your side performance line. That could be revenues, that could be profits, and if they hit that line, then they get filthy stinking rich. I mean, this is the way we design
they want
companies.
to keep that coming.
Yes, they do. But the people that set those curves, and Deloitte is very good at that, set them so that they're hard to reach. So at any given moment, there's an actual line of performance, and this creates what they like to call it McKinsey and Company gap, right? And the world has been trained that every time you have a gap, that the answer to that is to set forth across the land of, a team of McKinsey analysts like a plague of locusts, and it always takes 14 weeks and it always costs $4 million and nobody knows why. But then they come back and they tell you, what the nature of the gap is, and the 1,243 people you have to fire, and the 11 initiatives you have to kill, and the 2 factories you have to close down. There's always a little pizza slice left over, and in my experience, that's when your senior executives discover their newfound affection for innovation, and that's what will close that gap, right?
So that we need to innovate.
Yes, exactly.
To close the gap.
Exactly. Okay. And then a variety of indignities ensue. So they run around all the cubicles, they thump everybody on the head, they pick the ones that sound rapist, they stick them in a room.
Yeah.
Okay? And they come and they give what I like to call the stirring speech.
The stirring speech?
Yes, it's always the same, and it doesn't matter what company or what industry, and it goes like this.
What is it?
I will do it for you, okay?
Okay.
You've heard it before, I promise you. Ladies and gentlemen, here at Universal Galactic Unlimited, every time we've gotten into trouble, we have innovated our way out of it. And this is one of those times. I have to be straight with you. The last 6 times we tried to innovate, it wasn't pretty. It crashed and burned and people lost their jobs. But thank you for volunteering, for being on the all-important innovation team. This time, failure is not an option. Okay? We here, the leaders of Universal Galactic Unlimited, have no idea what's coming around the corner, so we're looking forward to your creative ideas. Just remember, as you produce them this week, that we need to have them generate at least $100 million in income revenues by this time next year, 48% gross margin, 31% revenue, and everything's going to be fine. And then they leave in a haze of blue smoke and assume that the creative people in the room will come up with ideas that hit those parameters. This is what the business leaders do. Yeah. Okay. Meanwhile, the engineers in the room, they just sort of never make eye contact. They have very poor social skills. They're the ones that are sitting there with their head in their hands. If you could read the frustrated little dark thought bubble over their heads, it would be saying, nobody but me gets the system. These people are going on. And on and on and on. And on and on and on. And when I get back to my office, I'm going to do what I decide to do because I get the system. And then there's the designers in the room. They've been hepped up on design thinking. They got the black T-shirts. They got the sticky dots and the Post-it notes. And they introduce little themes like, hey, let's think like a customer. And that's, charming for a few minutes. And if that doesn't work, then they say, let's think like a 2-year-old. So these are the dysfunctions I'm describing. Here's what we've learned, and this is really important. We've learned that in the history of innovation, looking at it longitudinally over 240 years and identifying specifically the things that have had the power to change industries, categories, or the world, we've discovered that there's always, unbeknownst to most people that developed them in the first place, some combination of a breakthrough business model, how you get paid, and specifically what suppliers and partners you're working with to change the offer, some kind of elegant technology that's surprising, that people didn't know to ask for, but then can't figure out how they ever lived without, and a terrific experience, specifically an experience that makes it easier to do hard things. Those 3 things are the genetic code of a breakthrough. But in most companies, most of the time, those are quite separate domains, and they don't know how to collaborate, and they don't know how to talk in each other's language. So there's this sort of edgy frontier now that you're probably discovering with lots of the other thoughtful people you're talking to, which is about integrative thinking. How do we do more complicated things? How do we do it in ways that truly integrate, depend upon, leverage all the talent that we've hired? And how do we, my way of saying it to students is the dumbest way to simplify something is to throw out all the hard parts, right? So how do you actually embrace the complexity of what you're trying to do and do it at the edge? So here's a fun fact to know and tell. Since 2004, 71 of the world's best design firms have all been hoovered up, either by strategy firms or by technology firms. So on the strategy side, McKinsey, Booz, Bain, BCG, or Monitor. Monitor is the one that bought Doblin. On the technology side, Accenture, Deloitte, SAP, Salesforce, Oracle, and others have all been buying design firms to the point where there's no big ones left. Okay. And what's interesting to me, when you look at the patterns, just between Deloitte and Accenture alone, they've hoovered up a dozen design firms in the last year. But inside of those large firms, they tend to hire those talented creative agencies on the basis of some specific functionality. Gee, we might need somebody with social media skills. We might need somebody with usability skills. We might need an agency of one type or another. This isn't the deep structure of what's really going on and what your readers need to know about. The deep structure is breakthroughs inherently require business model shifts, elegant technology, and a great experience. Okay? So cultural coolness and elegant technology and really profound perceived fair business model.
Do you find that when you basically give them that recipe, that three things that a breakthrough, do you find that even though they already know the recipe because you've given it to them, the implementation of that,
they have no idea how to do it? You're exactly right. And what does happen is when you finally show them, not only give them the recipe, to borrow your phrase, but to show them that in their industry, every single valuable breakthrough throughout history, whether it comes from them or their competitors, can be diagnosed with exactly that pattern. So I don't just say the recipe and then they get it. I mean, I don't know about you. I'm a garden variety cook. I can listen to a recipe that sounds delicious. I don't know how to cook it afterwards. Okay. So the recipe itself, when I provide evidence that it's true in their industry and deconstruct the things that have been the drivers of the greatest wealth creation, everybody goes, oh, wow, and it's actually an insight to them.
They can visualize it.
They can get it not only in their head but in their heart. Okay? So everybody goes, oh, wow, wish I'd known that a while ago. But they still don't know how to do it. So the whole core of what we've tried to build with my little band of scientists is what we call high protocol innovation, which is the opposite of things like brainstorming. Brainstorming is sloppy. I think it's a carcinogen the Surgeon General should get around to regulating someday. Okay.
High protocol.
Yes. So I try to get innovation to work like medicine does, right? So I don't know if you've ever thought about this before, but it's kind of a miracle that if you show up at 2:00 in the morning in an emergency room in a Western hospital with blood spurting out of an artery and you're dealing with a kid that's probably getting a C in the class because that's how they got assigned to the 2 a.m. slot, the emergency room, they probably won't kill you.